You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
I'm very excited because tonight I have a very special guest, Mike Maharrey from the 10th Amendment Center and his lovely wife, Cynthia Maharrey. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hey.
Hey. What's shaking?
Nada.
Hey. All right. Perfect. Well, we're going to have a very loose forum. We're going to have a cool exchange of questions from the live audience. And then we're also going to play a game. Are you guys prepared to play the Newlywed-ish game? We
are, but I'm kind of nervous about it. What if I lose?
Okay. Yeah, well, you probably will.
It's a lot of pressure. Wow.
Yes. So some of you may be familiar with Mike's work. Mike works for the 10th Amendment Center. He's the communications director. His wife is pretty badass in her own rights. So I'm going to give you, we're gaining engagement right now. It takes a little bit of time. So we're going to banter and people are slow, aren't they? So we're just going to randomly talk for a few minutes, if that's okay. Are you guys cool with rambling?
Your show. We roll with you.
All right. Awesome. So I will give out your bios because you guys are fancy pants. So fancy pants. We're going to have some fun. So I want to give out Mike's bio. A lot of you are familiar with him, but Michael Maharrey serves as the National Communications Director for the 10th Amendment Center and a managing editor for the Shift Gold blog. How you doing with Shift Gold? He hosts his own podcast.
Gold. Yeah. Buy it now. It's going up.
Is it going well? Okay. He hosts his own podcast, Thoughts from Maharrey Head. And also, I would like to add, which wasn't in the bio that I looked up, he manages Godarchy, which is probably one of my favorite blogs because I'm an anarcho-Christian. I'm one of those. So super cool. Yes. So that's what Mike does. Some of you may be unfamiliar with his lovely wife. Hey, Cynthia, give us a shout out.
Hi. You're so kind.
Okay. So I'm going to give your bio out. So Cynthia Maharrey is a professional genealogist specializing in deed, tax lists, will, court, and vital records research, residing in Kentucky, the original gateway to the West. Is it? I didn't know that, but that's awesome.
Yes.
Her wheelhouse is the late 18th century through the mid 20th century. I have so many cool questions for you because I love genealogy. And there's a certain show on PBS that I'm obsessed with, Finding Your Roots. And so I don't know if you're familiar with it. Are you?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh, yes.
I watched
think
it
that's
once.
Super cool. Just once?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-oh. We've already going to have conflict.
Okay. So I'm looking for questions down at our questions board. Do we have good engagement, Patrick? I hope so. Give me some questions. Other than our bios and things like that. So I want to start with you, Mike. So you work for the 10th Amendment Center. And a lot of what you talk about is decentralization.
Right.
And the Constitution. But I also know that you're an anarchist as well as I am.
True story. Weird, isn't
Yes.
it?
Wait, what?
I know.
Do you know?
No, this is a relationship hazard.
She
Cynthia,
knows.
did you know your husband was an anarchist? Okay. So, Mike, I want to know a little bit about how you came to be an anarchist. So tell me a little bit about your political story, how you began and where you are now.
So sometimes I'll say the 10th Amendment is the gateway drug to liberty, because that's really how it started for me. I kind of came from the right. I was in the hardcore neocon camp back in my younger days. Like I sat in front of the TV during the first Gulf War and thought that was cool entertainment. Something I'm not terribly proud of at this point in my life, but you know, it is what it is. And like a lot of conservatives, I got caught up in the Tea Party movement in about, I guess it was 2009, 2010, when Obama was in office, and started going to some rallies and stuff around town. And I had just gotten finished with school, journalism school. And I thought, well, I want to use my ability to write to, you know, make the world a freer place, to promote liberty. Of course, at that point, I didn't understand that Republicans didn't have anything to do with liberty, but, you know, live and learn. So I got involved with the 10th Amendment Center because I always had this innate sense that government was supposed to be limited. You know, that was the Republican mantra. We're going to have limited government. And so I knew that the 10th Amendment was something that had to do with limited government. It constricted the role of federal power, at least in theory. And so I got involved with these crazy 10th Amendment Center people who happened to be libertarians. And through that organization, I was exposed to people like Tom Woods and started reading, more hardcore libertarian and anarchist stuff. And then it was just from there, just kind of a gradual evolution as I began to learn, as I began to think about the philosophy, as I began to try to apply it consistently. I came to realize that, if you're going to be consistent with the ideas of self-ownership, and if you're going to be consistent with the idea of the non-aggression principle, then the state simply can't exist. They're not compatible in a philosophical sense. So then that raises the question, and I'm sure somebody's going to ask, well, why are you still doing the Constitution stuff? Because that's the ultimate in statism, which is true. But the fact of the matter is, to quote, well, not quote Murray Rothbard, but to paraphrase Murray Rothbard, parroting ultimate principles isn't enough. We have to do something to deal with the world we live in. And we live in a world that is dominated by the federal government. And the Constitution was written in such a way as to place limits on that federal government. That gives us a tool to push back against federal overreach through the system as it exists. And by doing so, we can move towards a more decentralized system. We can devolve power away from Washington, D.C. And I believe the biggest threat to liberty is ultimately consolidation of power. Centralization is the gravest threat to liberty. If we can decentralize and break it down, then that gives us opportunities to break it down even further, to eventually get down to where we nullify it to the individual. But to that point, we need something that we can use within the system as it exists to expand liberty and to try to attack the system. And the Constitution provides that means, and that's what we do at the 10th Amendment Center every day.
Super cool. So I actually have a question from a Disenthrall viewer. I'm trying to break this down. I'm sorry, I'm being unprofessional right now. Closing a window. So you guys are so cute. So in that vein, the Disenthrall viewer asks, how can individuals who desire to help support network with TAC, the 10th Amendment Center? I'm sure donations are a big part. That may be an assumption. How can we all get involved with the 10th Amendment Center? So what can they do to get involved with the 10th Amendment Center? That's actually a cool question.
That's a great question. Yeah. So we have a membership program, and you can actually be a member of the 10th Amendment Center. I don't know. I keep doing air quotes. It's my thing tonight. But we have memberships as low as $2 a month. And that's really how the organization supports itself financially. And members get access to certain things that the general public does not get access through. We don't just take your money and give you nothing in return. We're good capitalists over at the 10th Amendment. We are not tax deductible. And some people ask, well, why don't you be nonprofit? And quite honestly, we didn't want to be tangled up in the IRS rules. So we're not nonprofit, but we do have a great membership program. So that's one thing. You can go to 10thamendmentcenter.com/members, I believe is where you find that. Or just go to the main page, and there's a link there to the membership page. The other thing that we're always looking for is people who are interested in volunteering. And one of the best things you can do is go to the 10th Amendment Center blog. you'll find, especially this time of year, a whole bunch of different bills that we're tracking and supporting as they work their way through state legislatures. These are all bills that in some way push back against federal power. And if you see a bill that is in your state, one thing you can do, you can take 10 minutes and make a huge difference. You can contact your state representative and your state senator and ask them to support those bills. 5 or 10 minute phone call will do infinitely more than calling Washington, D.C. would ever do. If you've ever called Washington, D.C., you get to talk to an intern who, if they don't agree with you, will probably insult you and be rude and condescending and not have any earthly idea what you're talking about. And then you might get an email about 3 months later thanking you for calling and probably having nothing to do with what you actually talked about. State legislators are actually much more responsive to phone calls and emails. So just simply taking that 5 or 10 minutes to support these bills can really help move them through the legislative process. So those are the two things. We'd love to have you as a member, but more importantly, we really want you to get involved in state and local activism to push back against government at all levels.
Well, I'm definitely a fan of using the system against itself. And so I get a lot of pushback from being a part of the LP and using the system against itself. But I would agree. I think that's definitely a place to, it's a multi-pronged attack. And so we can use the legislature to attack. But I want to go back and I want to ask Cynthia some questions. Okay.
Ooh, fun.
So, yes. So, I know that you are a genealogist, which I find very fascinating. And so I have researched my father's genealogy a lot. He's adopted. And so I've gone back and researched that. So I want to ask you specifically, Cynthia, like what drove you into being interested in genealogy? And if you had some interesting stories of people that maybe you found some interesting things about and they were surprised, maybe you could tell some cool stories about that. So let me know.
Okay, so my interest in genealogy actually started well over 20 years ago. Actually, it started when I was in school. As a kid, we had an assignment to go home, take this family tree, talk to your mom and dad and your grandparents, and bring this back filled out because, we're going to do your family tree. So went home and I'm like, Mom, I've got this assignment. I've got to find out who all these people were. Can you help me? And so she helped me, and we had grandparents on there, her grandparents, and that's as far as we got. But I thought, wow, this is really great because I've never heard some of these people. I go to school with my little assignment, and there were kids there that bought in these tomes that their parents had and all of their history and just lots of stuff. And so I thought, I guess we just don't know. And then that kind of laid there for the next 10 or 15 years. And I didn't think anything about it until I had my own child. And after the 2:00 feedings, I could never go back to sleep. And the internet was kind of new, and Ancestry was on there, and you could get on there with the dial-up and the so it would eat up the time in the middle of the night. And I started to research, and I started to find out more and more about my family. And that was probably in the late 90s that I started to actually research. And it just continued every year. I just never put it away completely until I finally decided, I really just like to do this. And I found out that Boston University had a class you could take and then a certificate program that you could do. And I did both of those. So I do have a certificate from Boston University in genealogical research. And I'm not a certified genealogist, as all of the certified genealogist people are quick to pounce on you and tell you you're not certified. I know I'm not certified, but I do have a certificate. I have been taught. I've taken different classes. The Association for Professional Genealogists, I'm a member of that organization, and they have a continuing education requirement. And I blow that thing out of the water every year. I go to lots of conferences, lots of lectures. I read, and I am a working genealogist. So I actually research in archives and courthouses and online. So that's kind of how I went from nothing to where I am now. And I can't remember your other question.
Good stories.
No, I think that's actually awesome. And if there's some type of professional certification, well, I would say F that. If you know what you're doing, then that's pretty awesome. I actually have a large interest in genealogy because my father is adopted, and we very much tried to look into his genealogy. So I would ask you in the same vein of that question, like, so you look into court records and birth records and that type of thing. Has there ever been somebody that you've looked into genealogy for, or just kind of traveled down a path where you found something really interesting and maybe kind of surprising somebody about their genealogy? And if you have that, maybe you could share it.
I can share a story with you. Okay. I was conducting some research for a person that lived out of state, and they were trying to find, I can't remember what generation it was at this point, but the man's name, we'll call him John Smith. Okay. They couldn't figure out what happened to John Smith. He just disappears. And so they wanted to try to figure out what happened to him. And so I went back, and we're talking early 1800s, late 1700s is when this man was alive. And so I go back, and you start in tax records, and that's where you figure out, because people had to pay taxes every year, you were assessed. So I figured out when he stopped paying taxes one place and where he started paying taxes another, he'd moved. But then he fell off the tax rolls completely at one point. And I want to say it was like 09, maybe 1809. But I couldn't figure out what happened to him. And this is where I went to, I love to just think outside the box. He apparently, some of those court records were lost. So wherever his will or his, and when his estate was settled by the courts, can't find it. But the newspapers, where I found out what happened to him. So in the newspapers, I was able to figure out that somebody gut shot him and he died in the middle of the street.
Oh, shit.
That's what happened to him. So I was able to tell these people, so this is what happened to him. And they were drunk in a saloon, and he wasn't faster. That's what happened to him. And the way they told the story in the newspaper was very, not the way they tell stories in newspapers today. It was pretty graphic and very judgmental about the two people that were involved. But it was very interesting, and the family found it interesting as well.
She also found in the newspaper that my grandfather got busted for fornication.
Oh, no.
He actually got fined.
Yeah. You're a horrible person.
$50.
That's pretty funny.
It really is.
I actually have some questions from people online. So, are you saying it's a great idea to not use the state? That isn't practical. People have blind belief in authority, and we leverage that blind belief to advance our cause and freedom. I don't know. That's kind of like a mixed up question. Maybe, Mike, you want to take that? It's asking about authority in the state. So, but that's a question from a disenthrall viewer. So,
I guess, I mean, I'm just looking at reality. Authority of the state exists, and we can't pretend that it does. Well, I guess we can pretend that it doesn't exist, but it doesn't do us a whole lot of good to pretend that it doesn't exist. And so, if we have things that we can do within the system that break up the power of the system, then I think we should utilize those. I mean, ultimately, my goal is to live more free. That's what I want to do. And, reading Rothbard doesn't really make me more free. I have to do something within the system to make me and my children and my wife and the people around me more free. And so that's what we're trying to do at the 10th Amendment Center by limiting federal surveillance, by pushing for legalization of marijuana and hemp, and ignoring FDA rules and those type of things. Those things make us, from a practical standpoint, more free. Meanwhile, we continue to talk about the philosophy, and we continue to talk about the illegitimacy of the state. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach. It's interesting because I'm really interested in the period of history leading up to the Civil War, during the fugitive slave era, I like to call it, and looking at the way northern states attacked the issue of slavery. And the way they defied federal law to protect runaway slaves. That was a very poignant example of how state power was used to resist federal power to the benefit of people that had run away from slavery. And it's interesting reading some of the abolitionists at that time. And I think it was William Lloyd Garrison who basically said, from a rhetorical standpoint, we are always going to go for the absolute abolition of slavery. But in the meantime, we're going to take every strategic step that we can to limit its impact. So that's kind of the 10th Amendment prospect. We would love to eliminate the state, but along the way, we're going to crack as much as we can the federal power. And like I said, to me, the monopolization of government at the federal level is the gravest threat to us here in the United States. The more power is centralized, the more people it impacts. So you will never hear me say that state governments are good or local governments are good or that they're even better. But it's just the fact that there's more of them, and it disperses authority and power throughout the system, and you can use those little areas of power against each other.
No, I think that's actually a great point. And I have one more question from a Distance Roll viewer about federalism. So I will pass it off to you. Are you saying it's a great ideal to not use the state that isn't practical? People have blind belief in authority, and we leverage what blind belief is to advance freedom. So what they're saying is, can you use the state to perpetuate freedom? I don't know. It's kind of a creepy question.
Can you use the state to perpetuate freedom? No, I think you can use the state. I think you can use the state against itself to limit the power of the state. So you can use the state governments to limit the power of federal government, and that will advance freedom. I think ultimately, whenever you have government, whenever you have the state, it's a limit on our freedom. We want to get rid of as much of that as possible. Ultimately, we'd like to get rid of all of it. But that's going to take a massive change in the mentality of people. And I think he's right about the blind devotion to authority. I think that's very true. And there's going to have to be a change in the way people think, that's why what we're doing is so important in discussing these things and discussing the philosophy of liberty. That's what I do at Godarchy, particularly directed at Christians. But, trying to make people understand what it means to truly be, to embrace self-ownership and to embrace non-aggression. But like I said, along the way, we need to take the practical steps as well. So it's a two-pronged approach. But ultimately, we've got to change hearts and minds, because you're not going to have a free society until people want a free society. And we're not anywhere near that place right now.
This is very true. But I'm going to divert our conversation into a very fun game. Are you guys ready?
Got my whiteboard.
Kaysen? Hey, Kaysen, bring it on. We're going to play a game. This is called the Newlywed-ish game. In case you guys have been married too long. Okay. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
I will ask you a series of questions, and what you need to do with your whiteboards or whatever you have is to answer it in the other person's pejorative. So if I ask a question of you that I would ask of your partner, you have to answer it in kind. So,
right.
Okay. Are you guys cool with that?
Yeah, we'll do it.
Okay. Are you good, Cynthia?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So I would ask this of you. And you have to answer it like your spouse would answer it. Okay.
Right. I'm answering in her voice.
Super. You and like
voice.
kind.
Sound like my one.
Yes. Okay. What gift that your spouse gave you came as the biggest surprise? Now, write it down.
Our whole lives?
Yes. Write it down.
Well, I don't know.
No, you guys are broken.
See,
Oh no!
You would say.
Just write it down.
All right. I don't even know how I would answer this
That's
question.
fine. Oh, you don't, Mike. Sorry about your luck.
Okay.
Okay.
This
Are you
game's
ready?
hard. Yeah.
I know, right? Okay. Okay. Mike,
Yes.
please present your answer.
All right. So I think the Christmas gift that I just gave her might be the answer,
Okay, go ahead.
which was the gold bracelet.
Yeah, that was really, I had no idea.
Okay. Cynthia, please present your answer.
Okay, so this is a gift I gave him like several years ago. And I gave him NFL Sunday ticket.
Oh, that's right. You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's a good answer.
we've established like kind. Now it's going to be controversial because I'm going to make you guys fight against each other for the next question. Are you ready?
She'll win.
Okay. So what you need to do is to answer like the other person. So I'm going to ask you a question and you have to answer like you think your partner would answer. Are you ready?
Right. Yep.
Okay. This is going to be really fun.
So you say.
Okay. Okay. Mike and Cynthia. Who usually gets their way with things? Now, you have to answer that in your partner's voice. Oh, she's already writing. Mike, you're screwed.
Always.
Who gets their way?
Ooh, we got a little music.
We do. Jason's kind of awesome.
Indeed.
I have to pee too.
Well, damn.
Is the music drowning that out? Is that part of the shenanigans?
It is. Okay. Oh, did you finish?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay. All right. All right. So the end of the questions. Cynthia, please reveal your answer.
Mike would say, she does.
That's absolutely what I would say.
Oh! Mike.
I think she would say she does.
Oh,
would
look
say
at that. You win, Cynthia. Badass. That's awesome.
She definitely gets
She
her
just
one.
won. Okay, good. Okay, we know who rules the kook.
Yeah. Duh.
All right.
It's because I'm so easygoing and I really don't care.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, so we shall have one other shenanigan. All right. I'm going to look into a much deeper question. This is very difficult for couples. Okay. Okay, so you have to write out your position on what you would think your partner would think. Okay. if your spouse could change jobs, what would his or her dream job be? Write it out.
Dream job.
Mm-hmm. Do it. I'm ready. This is happening.
She's writing a book.
Well, I'm thinking about your true heart.
Okay. It's awesome. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, Cynthia, you're first. What is Mike's dream job?
Professional beach goer.
That's awesome.
That's accurate. I was actually thinking musician, but beachgoer is better.
Well, I get to do that with you.
True.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mike,
beach bum,
what was
definitely.
yours? What was yours?
Well, she is on the path to her dream job, which is genealogist.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're being sweet and supportive. Oh, lame. Oh, look at you guys. Get out of town. Okay, then we're going to get back to seriousness. All right.
Oh, that wasn't serious?
It was semi-serious. It was fine. You guys are cute. Everybody loves you. It's fine.
We love you too.
Oh, you guys are super fun.
When did we talk about flat Earth?
Oh, you want to do that?
No.
For real? Okay, let's not. Let's just skip that together.
But I think I know a
have some
guy.
questions. I have some questions from some people on distance roll. Okay, here's a distance roll question.
Okay.
What do you think about argumentation ethics? I'm not sure what that even means. So let me go scroll back. I think there's a little bit of, okay. Distance roll. What are the most hopeful, successful prospects you've seen so far with the 10th Amendment Center outside of states legalizing, decriminalizing cannabis? I think it's a cannabis question. So maybe I'll lead you into that.
So they're asking the biggest successes besides weed, I think is probably what they're.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I would say the right to try movement is weed is obviously number one, and then hemp you can put that in with marijuana. But the right to try movement, which if people aren't familiar with that, it started about 4 or 5 years ago with a couple of states basically passing laws that allowed people to try people that had terminal illnesses to try experimental drugs that had not yet gotten FDA approval. So there was a way for people to apply through the FDA to get into these programs, but it was very hard. A lot of red tape. A lot of people were rejected. And, what's more ridiculous than having a federal agency tell you can't try a treatment when you're dying? So a number of states started passing laws to bypass the FDA, create a structure within the state to allow people to try these experimental drugs, shield physicians from, arrest and whatnot. And this quickly moved, and by the middle of last year, there were 40 states that had passed state right to try laws. So then all of a sudden, the federal government passed its own right to try law. And then everybody, Congress tried to take credit for, we're doing this wonderful thing, and now people will have access to these experimental treatments. And 40 states had already done it. So this is a prime example of where you have a bottom-up political process where things start at a state level and then they work their way up to the federal level. Same thing that happened with marijuana. But what's really cool is now that the right to try is in place for terminal illnesses, now we have a bill that's been introduced in Texas that would expand right to try for people who have just chronic illnesses. So that's one of the cool things that I've really learned about strategy when it comes to legislative work. A lot of times libertarians will poo-poo a given bill because it doesn't go far enough. They want the whole damn loaf of bread right now. And we will support bills that you only get a slice of bread. But almost in every case, when you get the slice of bread, then the next year you'll see a bill introduced to build on that. So it's a step-by-step process. And it's really interesting. Progressives have been really good at this. If you watch the left, we have gotten to the place that we are politically in this country in terms of a lot of these leftist and socialist policies because they've taken it one little bite at a time. So I think it's really important from a strategic standpoint to find cracks that you can stick your foot in and then expand those out. We're seeing the same thing with marijuana now. States that legalize for medical, then the next step is they legalize for recreational. We're starting to see a lot of states do expungement bills where people that were charged under previous marijuana laws, those convictions are taken off their records, or even those arrests. So very much a step-by-step bottom-up process. But it definitely works. It's pretty cool.
No, I would definitely agree. And I think the bottom up process is maybe something that libertarians, so many of us, just disavow ourselves from. And I think it's definitely necessary. And I know a lot of people don't appreciate the LP, but we actually do fight on the local level for these laws and changes in these laws. And I think it's actually pretty awesome. So,
that's something that anybody can get involved in too. There is some kind of garbage that's going on at your local level right now that you could step in and try to affect change in that area. And so few people get involved in local politics that you can definitely make some progress, or you could get sued. That could happen. But there are a million things. There are a million things people can get involved in at the local level, from tax policies to stupid ordinances to surveillance to you name it. So I would really encourage people to look for opportunities at the local level. You don't want to get involved in state politics. That's cool. You don't want to get involved in federal politics. I don't either. But there's always stuff at the local level that needs to be fought.
Well, I would definitely say that's completely true. And if you're going to run your mouth, maybe put your money where your words are. I know specifically, Mike, that you were involved with the lawsuit and you were sued actually by your city. And I find that very interesting. I'm a big fan of police accountability and the making the surveillance state accountable. So let us know a little bit about what happened to you in Lexington. So you were just a regular citizen observing some surveillance, and then you ended up trying to seek information. So what happened?
Yeah, so I did some open records requests to the Lexington Police Department, trying to figure out what type of surveillance technologies that they were using. And I got a response from the city that they didn't have a lot of the stuff, which I kind of questioned, but that's another story. But they did admit that they have 29, they call them mobile surveillance cameras. Now, you might be asking yourself, what in the hell is a mobile surveillance camera? And we're still asking that question, too. And we're 2 years later because they don't want to tell us anything about these super secret surveillance cameras. So I appealed their denial of these records to the Kentucky State Attorney General's office, which is the process in Kentucky with open records. If a government agency denies a request, then it goes to the AG. The AG found in my favor and told the police department to give up these records. And so instead of giving up the records, the Lexington Police Department sued me, which oddly, people go, well, how could they do that? Oddly enough, that's actually the open records law in this state. If the AG finds one way or the other, then the other party can sue, but you can't sue the AG who made the decision. You have to sue the other person who asked for the records. Or this, I could have sued the city if the AG had found in their favor. But anyway, the city sued me. They wanted me to pay their court costs, which isn't even legal. And fortunately, I was have enough friends in influential places that I was able to get the ACLU to represent me in this case. Otherwise, I would have been done. I mean, there's no way that I could have fought a lawsuit on my own as an individual citizen. And of course, the city knows this. That's why they do it. They expect you to just go away. And But fortunately, I have great representation, and we went to the circuit court and we won. And the circuit court told the city to turn over the records. And so the city went back to the circuit court and asked for reconsideration, and I won again. And the court told them to turn over the records. And the city still has not given me the records. We are now at the Kentucky Court of Appeals level, and actually just read the brief that we're submitting to the appellate court. So they'll make a decision. This so slow. Who knows when they'll actually make a decision? But
So
yeah, the city's still fighting me on this.
They have not presented documents yet?
No. Well, I've got a bunch of redacted documents.
Oh, shit.
I've got a bunch of papers with black boxes on them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah.
The government, they're just amazing.
So wrap your head around this. I'm a taxpayer. There's my air quotes again. I'm a taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a citizen of this city. And I am basically paying, because you always get these people who tell you, well, we are the government. That's a statists love to tell you, we are the government. Yeah. Well, why the hell am I suing myself? That's retarded.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the whole thing about, and we could really get existentialist and go into that.
Right.
Because the government is a group of people that prey on other people and they're not legitimate. They don't have a contract with other people. They just assume rights over other people. Right. And we're all kind of beholden to them because they threaten us under force. And so, I get that, but most people don't. So if you start there, they're kind of freaked out.
Right. But that's the cool thing, because pretty much everybody, no matter what part, wherever they are on the political spectrum, when I say the city's suing me because I ask questions about surveillance, they all go, what? So it's things like that actually expose the state for what it is.
Yeah, it's super messed up. And I don't understand why people still support the state. I think it's maybe it's a knee-jerk reaction. People just they just, they're the cops, they're the good guys or whatever. And I don't think a lot of people look beyond that and understand that there's these people that are violating your rights. It doesn't matter if they're cops. It doesn't matter if they're violating your rights. They have no special rights over you. And so maybe you need to learn about what your rights are, which is something super strong point of what I do is I think it's really important to make people understand their Fourth Amendment rights, because the police state, the police don't even understand the laws that they enforce. We need to understand those. Fourth Amendment rights are super important. If you get pulled over, you need to understand that. And I don't think most people do. And I think that's super important. And I think that most police officers violate that. And that's something that I'm a huge proponent of, is people understanding their rights. But I don't think most people do. So, hi, guys.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I tell people this, because you do get a lot of the people, even with the surveillance thing, you get the people that want to say, well, if you have nothing to hide. And I always ask these people. Yeah,
that drives me crazy.
But I've actually I've done a couple of radio shows, and I've actually asked them, okay, you got nothing to hide, then please send me your browsing history for the last year, and I'm going to publish it on my website. And nobody's taken me up on that yet. And the truth of the matter is, privacy is a fundamental part of self-ownership. The ability to keep parts of us private is really a fundamental thing. I don't even like terming it Fourth Amendment rights, because the Fourth Amendment really just prohibits the government.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
But
those rights are natural anyways. So it doesn't matter. Yeah.
But it's just amazing that people are just willing to give up that basic the basic elements of self-ownership because they think they have nothing to hide. And the truth of the matter is you have plenty of things to hide. That's why you have curtains on your house. That's why you lock your doors. It's why you have passwords on your email. We all have things that we might not have to hide them, but we want to hide them because we have a right to this space that is us. And, government is trying to infringe on that all the time.
Absolutely. We have a right to privacy, and the government has no right to infringe on that. And people don't understand that. And when people say, if you have nothing to hide, you should bear this. No, that has nothing to do with that. If I have nothing to hide, it's nobody's business. It's not the police business. It's not the government's business. It's my business. If I've never harmed anybody, well, fuck off. Not your business.
That's right.
Sorry.
You said there would be swearing.
There's some swearing.
There was. But I feel very, I'm very compelled by that. And I think it's really creepy when people want to give over their rights to the government. I think it's a really strange position. And I think maybe it comes from a point of people being conditioned to give over information to the government. And I don't think that's a good thing.
No.
So, no. Hey, Maharreys.
Hey, Stuart.
Hi. So let's play one more. Let's play one more game before we let go. Okay. So, are you guys ready?
We're ready.
Yes.
Got my board.
Got my board.
Got your board?
Got my board.
Right. Okay. So you have to answer in kind for the other person for this.
Right.
You ready?
Yes.
If you had 2 weeks and money was not an object, where would you go? You have to answer this for your partner.
I bet you money we both say the same thing for each other. Oh, there's the music. I like the music.
That's good, isn't it? That's Casey. Kind of a badass.
You're a badass.
Are you ready? All right.
Yes.
Cynthia, reveal your answer.
Mike Maharrey would say Turks and Caicos.
Okay. That thing? Okay, Mike,
and Cynthia
reveal your
would
answer
say
then.
Caicos.
Yes, I would.
You guys did good. Are you fancy pants?
That's where we went on our honeymoon.
Simpatico. Very fancy.
Actually, so people want to have they've got these different ideas where you're going to have your libertarian utopia, so they had like the Free State Project and they're going to go to New Hampshire.
Yes.
Our libertarian utopia has to be tropical.
Absolutely.
I'm not doing no New Hampshire.
Anarchapulco, but it's super Mexican. Mexico is very annoying to me.
I don't know. I could possibly do that. I don't know. It's warm.
Yeah.
Warm is the overriding concern
I'm
for
okay
us.
with that.
People always tease
I
Michael
went to Mexico
Bolton.
a lot last year.
Yes, you did. So Michael Bolton, the founder and director of the 10th Amendment Center, he lives in Los Angeles. And people give him crap all the time. Why do you live in L.A. in that commie state? And he always says, well, I like my tyranny warm. And I think that's legit.
He's not wrong.
No.
Honestly, it's going to be -13 on Wednesday.
Yeah, we're like -5, so you're a little bit colder than us.
It's going to be horrible. I don't blame people for living in California, honestly.
Yeah.
And I have good friends that live there too, so whatever. Just fight the commies there.
Right.
And we'll be cold and have less commies here. What we're going to do. All right. We've had a really wonderful, I don't know what we've had, but it's been super fun.
There's certainly been some shenanigans.
Yes.
There have definitely been shenanigans. I'm not sure what we've accomplished, but I've had a super good
libertarian
time.
show are you going to talk about the surveillance state and genealogy in the same show.
Yes. I don't know, but we've had fun, and I'm certain that the guys from Disenthrall are enjoying this. Oh, wait, I might have another question.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I'll give you this because it's from Disenthrall. What are the most hopeful, successful prospects you've seen so far for the 10th Amendment Center outside of states legalizing, decriminalizing cannabis?
We did that one.
We did, I thought, but that's a new question.
Maybe they tuned in late.
Apparently, a lot of libertarians are really concerned about cannabis.
Tricia, scroll down. It's down lower. This is the disembodied voice of the producer. Scroll down. There's more questions.
Okay, I'll scroll down.
It's a mystery.
Okay, I'm going to scroll down. That's Patrick. I'm scrolling down. Okay, I'm scrolling down because I love these guys. Okay. I'll give you another question because he's being super cool. Okay. If a bill gives you a slice towards liberty, but also includes some other concessions towards statism, would you support it?
I would need a specific example of what they're talking about. I mean, statism is the default position that we're in. I mean, by its very nature, a bill is statism, right? Because it's going through the legislature. I mean, in a sense, any time that there's a piece of legislation, you're conceding statism, right?
Right.
So, I mean, pretty much everything we do, if you're going to, use that term as the kind of definition, and yeah, I mean, some people would say that simply engaging in the system, you're engaging in statism and you're supporting the system, and you are, in effect, initiating violence against other people. And, that's kind of a deeper debate than I think we want to get into here. But, I kind of use the term.
I want to kind of go into that, Mike, actually.
Well, I like Tom Woods' analogy. I'll use the Tom. Okay. I'll steal Tom Woods' analogy on that. If you're a slave on a plantation and you can vote to get more food, are you going to say, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm supporting the system of slavery? No, you're going to get more food.
No.
Right?
Okay.
So, again, my position is very pragmatic in terms of political activism. We have this situation. Let's be honest. I'm going to be real honest. I'm going to hurt some of the anarchists' feelings. We are not going to a free society in our lifetime. It's not going to happen.
Don't say me that.
It's not. The human mind is not there. Human beings like government. They want their stuff. They want to be ruled over. They want to be protected. And until we can get more people, it's growing. I mean, in the last 4 or 5 years, it's amazing to see how many more people have embraced the ideas of liberty. But we're still this little tiny. I think sometimes we get in this. I call it the libertarian ghetto, and we think we're really important, and we argue about all of these inane things. And really, there's about 56 of us. Yeah. And the other 150 billion people out there going, what the fuck? So, I mean, we need to live in the real world. So there was my F-bomb.
I know. Oh, you did the F-bomb. You know what? I wouldn't say that I disagree. Hey, Disenthrall, scroll back to me. They're pretty cool, so they will. Okay, so I don't disagree with your point. It's just that I think that if we could reach a few more people, like locally and like people that are prone to be liberty-minded, that we might make a bigger difference. I don't know if that means anything. I have no clue. I'm hosting a podcast where I'm trying to not say swear words. So I don't know if that's even a thing, but I understand your position, where you're coming from, but I just think if you can change a few hearts and minds and we all do that, then it can make such a huge impact.
Well, I tell people this. This is kind of I wrote an article for Godarchy on this subject. You know, if you go back to 1820 and you told people that slavery was going to be gone in 45 years, nobody would have believed you. That was such a minority position. The idea of abolition was such a minority position at that time. And so it took a change of hearts and minds to get to the point where slavery would go away. Now, some people would say it would take a war. I would argue that it was going to happen with or without the war. If you would ask somebody in 1600, hey, do you think we could have a government based on representation without a king, based on this written document? They would have been like, no, we can't have that. There had to be a philosophical underpinning that developed through the 1600s and 1700s in order to make the idea of a constitutional republic possible. I think we're in the beginning stages now of laying the philosophical groundwork to make a stateless society possible. And for that to happen, we need more people to embrace that philosophy. Right now, it can't happen because there's not enough people. But when people say, well, it's impossible, you'll never have stateless society. Well, no, that's not true, because people would have said you'll never not have slavery and you'll never be able to have a constitutional republic. So it's an evolution. And I think we're at the beginning stages of seeing that groundwork laid. You know, we're in the 1600s when John Locke was writing about natural rights and laying the foundation for, what we call classical liberalism. And so now we're laying the foundation today for stateless society. And I think that's very important work. And really from a pragmatic standpoint, I think that there's a place for all of us. We need people who are just doing the aggregate kind of stuff where they're figuring out ways to just get around the government completely. And we need things like the 10th Amendment Center that are breaking down federal power and working towards decentralization. And we need the LP, and we need all of these people doing their thing and working together. And I really wish that we would do less fighting with each other and arguing about, well, your way is the wrong way, and just support each other and cooperate in these efforts and see that slowly but surely we can move towards the type of society that we want. So, that's my spiel. I don't think anybody is wrong. I don't think it's wrong to withdraw from the system or to not get involved in politics. I respect that position immensely. I get frustrated when they come to me and say, well, you're not a real libertarian because you're doing da-da-da. Well, whatever. But I think we need all of these things happening at the same time, and that's how we're going to move things forward. In rant.
I agree with your rant too. I get a lot of shit for being involved with the LP. But I would say there's a lot of people that are keyboard warriors that just argue with people and they make no difference. And so if you can change people's hearts and minds and give them information and maybe change their hearts through the internet or whatever, then I think it's a great thing.
Yep.
So I quite agree. I think there's a lot of people that sit at home behind their keyboards and don't do any service to anybody else. And they'll never change somebody's hearts or minds. I am active in the LP, but that's just because I use it as a bullhorn platform. I don't actually think that it's in its service is going to change anybody's lives. I know they probably hate me for that. To me,
who knows
electing somebody means nothing. Electing somebody means nothing to me. But being able to tell people about liberty through a political party does mean something. So that's how I act through that. And I know that you're not a huge political activist, so you're not going to join the Mises Caucus, which we're sad for that. Wish you would. You're not going to do that. I'm not into candidate politics. That's just not my thing. But I'm into policy politics and issue-oriented politics. But again, I think there's a place for each and every one of us to get involved. I can't do everything. I'm doing enough already. So,
more power to. I love the Mises Caucus guys and respect and appreciate what they're doing. And I've lended a hand on some things as well. So, but we've all got to find our place and do our thing.
Yes, I know you have, and thank you. And so Michael Heiss will be very grateful for this part of our interactive. Anyways, you guys have been wonderful. I've had such a good time with you. And so I'm probably going to close out our discussion. And so do you want to plug anything or promote anything? Let me know.
Well, I'll just do my normal rundown of things people should go to.
Okay.
Go to 10thamendmentcenter.com. Check out what's going on over there. We've got articles and blog posts, fresh content every single day. If you are interested in our work, support what we're doing as far as breaking down federal power or using nullification, and decentralization, become a member. We'd appreciate that support. So that's 10thamendmentcenter.com. You spell it all out, TENTH. You can follow my work at michaelmaharrey.com. That's where my podcast, Thoughts from a Hairy Head, is. And if you're a believer in Christ and you're interested in that intersection of politics and theology and Christianity, go to godarchy.org. I've got a relatively new podcast over there. And that's probably where my heart is in terms of my work. Doesn't generate any income, but it's kind of my heart and soul right there. And so people are interested in that. We shove a crowbar between state and church. That's my moniker. So check that out, godarchy.org. And then if you're interested in genealogy or if you need any genealogy work, tell me your website.
Oh, this is pretty awesome. Yes.
Preteritum.weebly.com. PRAETERITUM.
Okay. That's super awesome. Actually, I actually love genealogy, and I'm going to actually send you some information because I want to find out things about my family.
Perfect.
Also, Mike, Godarchy is, I know it's like your smallest project, but it's my favorite. And so I would plug
my favorite
too.
That's where I get into the actual philosophy, and I get to say, kill the state.
Yeah. Oh, I would say something else, but I'll be really nice right now. But blank the
I've already
state.
F-bombed, so that's your F-bomb for this episode.
Okay, good. I'm trying to be nice. It's not helping. But F the state, and I love Godarchy, and I love anarcho-capitalism within the looking at it through a Christian perspective. So I really enjoy that. So people, go look to Godarchy. There's also some other cool sites too. So you can send me a message if you want to find out about those. And if you're interested in genealogy, you can look at the show notes because I'll have some links. And the Maharreys are badass. And I love you guys. So thanks for joining. Disenthrall has produced this production. That's fine, whatever. So they're pretty badass. You should probably follow Disenthrall. They have wonderful productions and they're pretty badass. So if you don't follow them, you're a horrible person.
Pretty much.
But you pretty much. So we're gonna peace out. Love ya.